Welcome to Flip Video Lesson 6.02, Reaching Millions. This goes along with your Human Odyssey reading pages 611 to 625 and your student guide pages 378 to 380. Lesson Introduction, Organizing for Change. Until about 100 years ago, the biggest group in any society was the peasant class. As factories and cities grew, in the 1800s, a middle class grew. By 1900, many factory and office workers had pushed for shorter workdays and had some leisure time. They flocked to amusement parks, beaches, and sporting events. They headed to the new department stores to buy the new products the factories were turning out. Thick catalogs offered folks in rural areas thousands of products. But the real revolution came when Henry Ford figured out that a well-paid factory worker would not only work hard, he would also be a good consumer as well. Learning objectives for this lesson. Many of these objectives are covered in detail in the readings from your Human Odyssey book, pages 611 to 625. It's very important that you are reading those pages as we can't cover all of that information in detail during these Flip video lessons. Describe the changes that occurred in sales and marketing and reasons for them. Explain the meaning of the term mass society. Explain the role of universal education in the economic progress of Western Europe and the United States. Explain why new leisure activities became popular in the late 1800s and give examples of those activities. Identify new technologies that contributed to mass entertainment. Identify William Randolph Hearst and Joseph Pulitzer and what they are known for. And summarize the methods Henry Ford used to bring automobiles to the masses. This starts on, again, page 378 in your Human Odyssey book. Make sure you're taking a look at that and filling these questions in as we go. Question number 1, changes between the 1800s and 1900s. Most Europeans in the 1800s were poor peasants trying to scratch out a living from the soil. By the 1900s, there were bustling cities with lights, trolley cars, telephones, and factories, and a growing middle class. Number 2, the middle class. The middle class is the group of people who are neither rich nor poor. Many people in the middle class work in offices, stores, factories, and other businesses. Number 3, mass society. The word mass refers to a large quantity or amount. By 1900, there was a substantial middle class and factories were mass producing goods. A growing number of people were looking for ways to amuse themselves, which led to mass entertainment, such as movies, amusement parks, travel, and spectator sports. Methods of communicating, such as telephones and telegraph, were referred to as mass communication. Number 4, how did stores change in the 19th century? Aristide Boucicaut and his wife built the first department store. It was an enormous store that displayed the merchandise in different departments which customers could browse through. In the past, customers had not been able to see merchandise. They had just asked the sales clerk for items they wanted. The Boucicauts also established fixed prices in their department store. Previously, customers had bargained with the sales clerks. The Boucicauts kept the prices low because they bought large quantities of merchandise. The Boucicauts allowed people to buy merchandise on credit, which was unusual at that time. Number 5, how did marketing to people in rural areas change during the 19th century? Modern machinery helped the farmers earn extra income, so they had money to spend. Traveling salesmen charged high prices and offered farmers little variety. Richard Warren Sears decided to send people in rural areas catalogs that offered goods for sale so they could shop by mail. By the end of the century, Sears and his partner, Alva Curtis Roebuck, were mailing out catalogs that had more than 500 pages and offered thousands of products. Soon, many other companies started selling products through their catalogs. Number 6, 7, 8, and 9, more than just work. As shorter work hours and labor-saving home appliances began to allow people some leisure time, people started to seek new forms of entertainment. Many headed towards trolley parks, which offered dance halls, picnic tables, and carnival rides. Many people also began to attend sporting events. The most popular sport in the United States was baseball. In Great Britain, fans flocked to rugby and soccer games. In the United States of the 1890s, vaudeville became very popular. Vaudeville shows were variety shows that featured a wide variety of short acts that included everything from animal acts to short plays, and comedians or jugglers. Technology also contributed to new forms of entertainment. After Thomas Edison invented the phonograph, people began to listen to famous singers in their own homes. Number 10. Thomas Edison also invented the kinetoscope. It was the earliest device to show moving pictures or movies. The movies were very short and jerky, or we would say glitchy in today's day. At first, the brief movies just showed actions, such as a sneeze, a boxing match, or a dance. Gradually, movies got longer, and they began to tell a story. In 1890, the first kinetoscope parlor opened. Eventually, they began projecting the moving pictures on a large screen. The first movie theaters were called Nickelodeons. Most of the early movies were silent. Nickelodeons declined as larger movie theaters were built to show longer movies. Do you recognize that name, Nickelodeon? Now you know where the TV channel got their name from. Numbers 11, 12, and 13. More to read for the people in the second half of the 19th century. High-speed printing presses led to mass printing, and dime novels or penny dreadfuls became very popular. Pulps were magazines printed on cheap wood pulp paper. They usually included science fiction and tales about cowboys in the American West. The two publishers who transformed the daily newspaper into a form of entertainment were Joseph Pulitzer and William Randolph Hearst. Their newspapers included many sensational sports, stories, comics, and news about entertainment. Number 14. Public education. It was not until the 1870s that the British Parliament passed a law saying all children should be educated, and until the 1890s that public schools were really funded. Germany advanced public education in the 1870s and 1880s. In the United States, Massachusetts passed a law requiring children to attend school in 1850s, and by 1890, most American children were attending school. In countries that had universal public education, most of the adults could read, so the countries developed an economic edge over countries that did not educate all of their children. And again, I know there's a lot of information here, so you can always pause this video when you're watching it on your own time. Numbers 15, 16, and 17, Henry Ford. When Henry Ford was growing up, he loved to take things apart and figure out how they worked. Henry Ford became obsessed with building a quadricycle, which was a small chassis with 4 bicycle wheels and a simple gasoline engine. Ford also called it his gasoline buggy. Ford's primary goal when he started the Ford Motor Company was to build a motor car for the masses. Optional additional information. The next 3 pages have additional information. There's no student guide question pages that go with them, but they are there for additional information for you to look at. This is just some additional information on the phonograph, the kinetoscope, and the high-speed press. So I would highly recommend, again, when you're watching this on your own, to take a pause and read through this slide. And then this is Henry Ford, Why I Favor 5 Workdays with 6 Days Pay. And this is Henry Ford. He believed that his workers would get more done in less time and more efficiently if he reduced their work week to give them some rest, to give them some time. I just think this is a great article. I'm not going to read it during this flip video for sake of time, but I would like for you, again, on your own time, to pause the slides and you can read through this. And we come to the end of our flip video lesson. Don't find fault, find a remedy. Henry Ford. Thank you so much for joining me today for our flip video lesson.